nobody in that room had my back. There are a series of very hurtful things that happen and like these indignities that we swallow and we just keep going. One of the things I was subject to was pets a threat. As a mental health person working in a mental health unit, doing crisis response in a school district, and there's nothing that's being said about Black people being killed like this. How can we have a crisis response for any other perceived crisis, but nothing about Black people? Out of the blue, boom, they said, oh, we've closed your position and we're going to demote you back to your entry-level position, and you have 1 year to try to secure another position within the district, and if you don't, we're going to lay you off.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Coffee No Cream podcast. My name is Erin Braxton and I am your host of Coffee No Cream. Here on Coffee No Cream, we are unapologetically dedicated to Black women, and we share what I like to call Coffee No Cream moments, those things that happen to us Black women in business and in life just because we are Black women. Today we have toxic job liberator, Dr. Kimani Norrington-Sands. And Dr. Kimani is a clinical psychologist, and she helps Black women get themselves out of toxic jobs, which is right in line with what we talk about here on Coffee No Cream, because so many of us are either currently in a toxic job or have been in a toxic job and are looking to get ourselves out of a toxic job. So when Dr. Kimani reached out to me, I thought it would be a great idea for her to come on. She's got lots of good tips and things to look for to identify if you really are experiencing toxic jobs and the symptoms of toxic jobs. So we had a great conversation. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. Before we do, I just want to ask you guys to please like, please share, please subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know how I'm doing. I love to engage with you guys in the comment section. We have the Facebook group. The link is below. We also have a free educational resource for those of you who want to leave or level up in some way. We have a database of over 2,000 or almost 2,000 free educational resources. Just go to coffeenocream.com/free. And that is it. So let's just get right into the episode with Dr. Kimani Norrington-Sands. Welcome, Dr. Kimani. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Erin?
I am great. So excited for you to be here. Love you call yourself the toxic job liberator for Black women. So we love that. We talk about toxic jobs a lot. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what it is you do every day.
Okay. Well, thank you again for allowing me to be in this space, because I do watch you as well. So my name is Dr. Kimani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm originally from Chicago, but I live in Los Angeles now. And I've been licensed for about 20 or so years. I am on YouTube talking a lot about toxic work environments for Black women, but I talk about the full range of the experiences. So most of them are very negative, but I like to emphasize that there is a way out, that we have options, because I don't want us to feel like we're stuck. And I do that because I am a toxic job survivor. So when I was at a toxic job, I felt stuck. I felt like there was no way for me to get out. I felt demoralized. I felt all the things, right? I had all these symptoms, physical, mental health symptoms, but I stayed. I stayed for a number of reasons, because I was going to show these people, I was going to not let them run me out of here, this good job, just a number of reasons why I stayed. But it got to the point where I had to prioritize my own well-being and the well-being of my family and say, there has to be another way. You know, I have the education, the credentials. I don't, this is not the only place where I can be to make money. And so I started exit planning, but we'll talk about that too. But, a lot of what I do on my YouTube channel is to show Black women that there's a lot of us out here who've had experience of a toxic job, so you're not alone, and that we have options in terms of resources, and that I'll provide resources for us to get out and to exit plan, because I want us to do well. And so that's why I'm on YouTube every week, sharing another interview with another Black woman who's left a toxic job and is doing well right now. So my YouTube channel is Lifting as We Climb Consulting. And I generally go live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, because that used to be the worst day of the week for me, where I had the Sunday scaries. It was like this dark cloud that was over me every Sunday at 5 o'clock. So a way that I've reclaimed my healing is I come on live, I interview another Black woman. It's healing for me, to be able to talk about it, to share resources, and to kind of get that stuff just out in the open, because a lot of times we feel so silenced, and that could be a form of oppression too. And so I'm like, no, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. So I've reclaimed, time back on Sundays, with my lives.
Yeah, I think this channel has been very therapeutic for me as well. And I've had other guests say that even though they might not be strong on YouTube, but even on TikTok or other platforms, just being able to share, because true to what you said, I think a lot of times we have these experiences and they're traumatic, obviously. And we do think we're alone. It's so wonderful that people are talking about it now. But, once upon a time, they were not, at least not on the internet. So I'm so glad to have you here. And so I just want to get into it. For those of you who are joining us for the first time here on Coffee No Cream, we share what I like to call coffee no cream moments, those things that happen to us Black women in business and in life just because we're Black. And we're going to have Dr. Kimani share with us just one of her coffee no cream moments. I'm sure she's got many, since she is the toxic job liberator for Black women. So, Dr. Kimani, share with us just one of your coffee no cream moments.
Oh, that's hard. That's hard, Erin. So when you like, which one? So I know that I said I was going to talk about one, but I'm like, oh, there's another one.
Talk about whatever. There's so many. We'll probably get into it once you start going. Who knows where the conversation goes? So
okay.
Please share.
Okay, so, oh God, unfortunately there's so many, right?
Yeah.
But I'll share an experience that I had, and it's interesting because I started my YouTube, actually I started on Instagram, talking about my experiences, because I felt like when I was at the tail end of the toxic job, I felt like they were doing so many things to humiliate me and silence me. So my form of rebellion, or no, you're not going to silence me, was that it's like, I'm going to talk about it on Instagram. So I was talking about it on Instagram, but I wouldn't talk about details. I would just talk about workplace bullying. And I just thought it was going to be like a series, right? But then I got into Stephanie Perry's YouTube challenge, and she was like, you need to be on YouTube talking about this. And then it's so interesting, Erin, because I thought it was just going to be like a 2-week series about workplace bullying. But then after that, Black women around the world were like, girl, keep talking. You're talking about my experience, right? So as I've done this, I've been very mindful of talking more so about the impact. I've talked more so about interviewing other Black women. I haven't really gotten into the deep details about what happened to me for many years. And just reflecting on it, it's because it was painful. It was very painful. And so now I'm at a point, I guess in the grief process where I'm like, no, I'm ready to talk about it. So I'm going to share an experience that happened that for many years, it was like, did this really happen? But yeah, it really did happen. So I was sent to a training, and it was only 2 Black people in the room. The rest of people were not looking like us. And so it was a therapy type of training. And so during the training, the trainer was very excited to show a video to us. And he said, I'm going to show you this video, a video of my dad, who was a very famous therapist. I'm going to show you this video of my dad. And as you're watching this, I want you to pay attention to the paradoxical intervention. Okay? And so, we're like, okay. So he shows the video, and it's in black and white, right? So he's showing the video, and the video is his dad, who presents as white, and then there's a young Black man, and then later the young Black man's mother comes in. So then he says to the young Black man, who had gotten into some trouble or whatever with the law, he said, how'd you get to be so dumb? How'd you get to be so stupid? And I'm sitting there and I'm like cringing, like, is this really happening? Right? And so he's like, yeah, you made a really dumb mistake. How did you get to be so dumb? I can't believe you did that. Right? And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening right now. So then he brings in the young man's mother. And so he turns to her and he says, how'd you raise such a stupid child? How'd you do that? Because he did this certain thing, and now he's going to go to juvenile hall. And you know what happens to boys in juvenile hall, don't you? You know what happens to them, right? And so she's like kind of thanking him. And I'm just like mortified. I'm watching this mortified, right? So I'm looking down at my phone, and I see on my phone that the other black woman in the room, who is my colleague, a black woman, she's texting me, and she's like, I'm being triggered right now. Mm-hmm. And I said, I am too. And I'm going to say something. That was typically what I was the talker at the job, right? About stuff. So he turns off the video, right? And so he's proud. He's like, so what did you guys think about the paradoxical intervention? And the room is silent, right? And so I was the first person to raise my hand. I said, I found that video to be very offensive. I felt that it was insensitive to have a young black man, given the experience of black people in this country, to call him dumb and stupid and to berate him, and I thought that was racist, and to bring his mother in, and so his smile turned quickly into like a scowl, right? And so then he says to me, I told you to pay attention to the paradoxical intervention, and you weren't doing that. I told you to pay attention to that. And I said, I paid attention to that, but we also have to talk about racism as well, or racism and culture. And he said, race and culture and racism has nothing to do with it. And I said, it has everything to do with it, right? And I'm talking to him just in this tone, right? He's coming at me, right? And so I said, it has everything to do with it. He said, well, I showed this video to a black man from the South, and he didn't have a problem with it. And I said, well, maybe that man was struggling with internalized oppression, but I'm telling you right now that I found that offensive, and I'm not going to go back and forth with you, right? So he was like flustered, right? And so then he's like, let's just take a break, right? So keep in mind, Erin, so we're in a training room, so there's maybe 30, 40 people in that room, okay? Not one person said anything during that exchange. Not one person, right? So when we go out to break, people are coming up to me. I'm so glad you said something. I'm so glad you said something. Oh my God, that was so offensive. I can't believe he said that. Even the black woman didn't say anything. You know what I'm saying? Like
the woman you were there with that was texting you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just out there, saying this, like, this is wrong. This is wrong. And I'm just left out there by myself, And so I was like, so this is how it is okay, number one, to demean a young black male, and his mother. And then when I'm trying to express to you that it was insensitive, it was triggering, it was all these things, you become defensive at me, attack me. And then nobody in that room had my back. Nobody in that room had my back. And it was just yet another reminder of what environment am I in? Like, what is this? What is this? And this is the mental health space. Like, what is this? What is this? So that's one example. I have many, many others.
I'm sure.
Many, many others. But that's just one example. And then they wanted us to have consultations with this man, like ongoing consultations with this man about our therapy cases. And I was like, I will not consult with this man because of what he did. And they said, you don't have to, but still, they still contracted with this man, knowing what he did,
right,
and do consultations with him. Yes.
So, first of all, paradoxical intervention. What does that mean for those of us who?
Yeah, so we're going to do something opposite to get an effect, right? So it might not be something supportive, but the hope is that by doing something that's not the intended focus, hoping that it's going to get a certain outcome, right? So I guess what he was trying to do was to kind of scare the boy straight or something, where he would be like, oh my God, you're right. I should have never done that, blah, blah, blah. But there was no evidence of that during the video. And it was so shaming and demeaning.
Right.
I've never seen anything like that before.
So by calling the boy, dumb, as opposed to, and telling him what's going to happen to him in juvie is going to help him have the right outcome from having to go.
I guess that was the intent.
Yeah.
I guess that was the intent.
So, tell me, so this happened, you raised concern. Now you were at the training, these people, third party, I guess, contracted trainer, and you told the organization that you worked for, and they said,
yeah, we heard we heard that he said some offensive things.
Oh, so they had heard. Okay. And that was the end of that.
That was the end of that. That was the end of that. So it just really showed me in terms of, you really don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, just yeah, it happened. Just kind of get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just I've talked to, other guests about, and I don't know where this place was that you worked.
Los Angeles. Well, okay. I was just saying Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I had stuff happen to me in Los Angeles too. People think because it's LA, stuff doesn't happen. But the thing about LA is everybody's from everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying the organization that you worked at, this place, was this the last job that you had?
Yes, before I exited out. Yeah. And like I said, there was a series of things. I think that happens with many of us. Yeah. There are a series of very hurtful things that happen, and like these indignities that we swallow, and we just keep going. We keep going. But there were so many that happened that finally I was like, yeah, I'm out. Yeah.
How long did you work there?
I was there about 13 years.
What I was going to say was, I've had this conversation about like vetting and researching organizations before you go and really trying to understand what you're getting yourself into, especially as Black people, as Black women. This is very important that we do. And I never did that to that extent, there were different times the last time I worked for somebody, but I never did my due diligence when it comes to doing that. Cause you're like, oh, I heard this is a good company, or you work with them, and da 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 da. So I'm just wondering, did you, obviously there was a culture problem as far as you're concerned because things were happening to you, but were you able to did you know about this organization before you went to work for them?
I did. And what's so concerning is that it didn't start off like that. So when I first started working there, I had a very positive experience. I would say the first 8 or 9 years, it was a great place to work. Even though I knew there was toxicity elsewhere in the system, I wasn't really directly affected. And I had 2 Black women supervisors who kind of shielded me from a lot of that. But then once they retired, then I was the subject to a number of things. And one of the things I was subject to was pet to threat, which, I talk about that a lot on my channel as well. So when I think about the experiences of myself and other Black women, that many of us have this kind of experience where we're brought in to do a job and we do a good job, and then we get attention for that. And then there's this initially like this pet, like, oh, she's so great, she's so wonderful, she's doing all these other things. And then you start getting more attention, and then you become the threat. And so that's over time how my job experience became. So initially it was great, it was wonderful. And then once they left, the supervisors left, I didn't have the protection. And then I was like doing things, right? But I didn't have the protection. And then these insecure people around me were, I guess, triggered in some ways by some of the ways that I was showing up or the things I was doing. And I experienced a pet to threat. And then it was like this way to kind of push me to kind of get out, right? So the demeaning and a lot of other things they were doing to kind of push me out.
Question for you. I'm not sure what time this was, but was there, when you noticed the change, I'm just curious because we've talked about it on the podcast. Was there a change in the political climate during that time? No?
No. Well, you know what was happening? I take that back. This was around the time when we started seeing more people who look like us being killed, right? And we would see it like in the media and social media, like we started seeing a lot like back to back, right? And so we saw like 2020 where like there was like this, like, oh, we got to stand up to this, right? But even before then, there were a lot of things that we were seeing in real time. And so that was a shift, right? So even though it's Black people, we know that these horrible things have been happening to us since we've been to this country. But now we were seeing it more so in the media. And so when we started seeing it more so in the media, my response was, okay, so we're the mental health unit. We work with students. Are we going to be talking about these issues with our students? Because we do crisis response. But there was nothing. There was no like acknowledgement about all these Black people who have been, killed, nothing. And so that was very disturbing to me, as a mental health person working in a mental health unit, doing crisis response in a school district, and there's nothing that's being said about Black people being killed like this. And so that was kind of the climate that was going on. And so when that happened, Erin, I was like, okay, how can we have a crisis response for any other perceived crisis, but nothing about Black people? Absolutely nothing. And so my response was, we need to be doing something about this. And so the we became me, okay? Yeah. And so the we became, okay, I'm going to develop a training that talks about trauma, talks about historical trauma, implicit bias, microaggressions, all these things that impact our students, our families, our staff. I'm going to create this, right? And I ended up reaching out to another Black woman. We created the training, and then we started creating and training throughout the whole district. And we started getting a lot of attention for it. But guess what, Erin? The unit that we were a part of, the mental health unit, they didn't support our training. They didn't support the training because, well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. So they didn't support the training. And later, even though I had some suspicions, the person who was over the unit at the time actually told me out of his mouth. He said, the reason why our unit is not supporting the training is that you present the training as if it's your training.
But didn't you come up with the training?
But they wanted ownership. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is that, yeah, it's already work product. So officially it is your product, right? But it was my idea. I reached out to another Black woman. We co-created that together. They had no impact. No slide, no research article. They had no involvement in the creation of the whole training or facilitation of the training. But it was, how dare you go out here and say that you developed or co-developed this, and you didn't say it was I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And so again, when you think about the insecurities, and then when I kind of pushed back on like, wait, well, I did, you know what I'm saying? There was that shift, right? So initially they ignored it. Then we started getting more attention from the district, and then the pet. Oh, this is great. This is great. This is great, right? Then it was, oh, well, you know what? We think, so initially, no attention, no whatever, right? And I told them, hey, we're getting these really great evaluations. People are writing testimonials about the training. They're saying it should be district-wide, mandated. When I told that to my direct supervisor, he laughed in my face. He literally laughed in my face, right? But then later, we're getting this attention through the district, and now they want to do a trainer of trainers program, right? So basically, they want me to train other people to do the training. And so when I kind of was like, I don't know, we have to be very careful of who we vet to do this training, because we're talking about very sensitive information. And then it was a threat. right? Like, how dare I, number one, I'm presenting this training as if it's my training, even though I always acknowledge the other Black woman who did the training with me, right?
Right.
How dare you? And then you're not going to train other people to train on this thing, so you going to get it. It was like that. Boom, like that.
So after this, like, whole thing happened, is that kind of really what just pushed you out?
Yeah. So then after that, they ended up demoting me, right? So I was the first, no, sorry. There were only 2 clinical psychologists in the whole school district, okay? So by the time I left, I was the only one. So during this time, I was doing other duties and I had promoted and everything like that. So once I left that entry-level job in the clinic, they closed my position, right? They closed the position, so I promoted. And then out of the blue, boom, they said, oh, we've closed your position and we're going to demote you back to your entry-level position. And you have 1 year to try to secure another position within the district. And if you don't, we're going to lay you off. Which was crazy because at that point, I've never heard of anybody being demoted like that, right? Also being told that you only had 1 year to find another position or they would lay me off. I think by that point I've been there for maybe like 11 years. Like, I'd never heard of any stuff like this before, right? And so just the thought of you have promoted and now you're going down to your entry-level position, not even the position you came from, you're going all the way back down to your entry-level position. And so it was just all of this nonsense. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous.
Wow. So, yeah, I've had this whole, I don't know. Okay, so you didn't end up, let me just finish this off before I go on. So you ended up walking away, or did they ultimately lay you off?
No, I took a leave of absence because I was in therapy at the time with a Black woman therapist. And so I was just telling her about the crazy stuff that was happening. And, you know, she kept saying to me, I think you need to leave, right? You know, like, it's not worth it. Like, this place is not, you know, whatever. And I was like, no, I'm going to fight them, or I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, She was like, girl, like, you're not well. Like, you need to leave. And so, and in fact, you know, because I was starting to, like, question, like, God, why would you do this to me? You know, I'm a really good employee. I'm a good person. Like, why would you do this to me? I don't understand this. And so my therapist was like, girl, God is on a rescue mission for you to get you out this place because you should not be here. Like, you deserve to be somewhere bigger and better, right? So God is trying to rescue you. You need to go, right? So then I took a leave of absence. And when I was on the leave of absence, that's when I started exit planning. I started working with a Black woman business coach. I started working with a Black woman financial psychologist who I actually work with now to help other Black women. And I was like, okay, I need to get my money plan together because if the money is how am I going to replace my income? Then I need to get ahead of that and I need to figure out how am I going to replace my income and my benefits so I can get out of here. And that's exactly what I did. So I took that year off, did my exit plan, and then I ended up resigning. And the thing about it, Erin, was even though I had those things in place, even though I was replacing my income and I actually exceeded my income, I was still very fearful of leaving the job. I was still fearful, right? Because to me, that represented stability. I knew every 5th of the month I would get a check. I knew, even though it was a horrible place at that point, but I was still very scared to go. And so it wasn't until, and I tell the story because it literally felt like God was in the room with me. But I was taking a shower and I heard the voice of God say to me, if you don't leave that job, it's a death sentence. If you go back to that job, it's a death sentence, right? And I'm telling you, Erin, it was like God was talking to me right there, right? So I got out the shower, got dressed, and I resigned immediately. I resigned immediately because I knew that I was on a path to nowhere.
I like how you took your leave and then you worked with people so you could get yourself ready to go. Like, I didn't even know a financial psychologist was a thing.
Yes.
So that is awesome.
And a Black woman financial psychologist at that.
Well, hello. We're going to need to know who she is.
Absolutely. And I work with her now. She's in a virtual summit, financial masterclass. We do collaborations all the time now.
Okay. Yeah. That's very, very, I mean, I think that's the thing. You know, when I left, I wanted to go. I was ready to go. I knew they were going to let me go. But I wasn't ready to go financially, right? And I had already started a business, but I was, you know, doing stupid stuff, like throwing money at it, trying to make it go. And so I like the whole planning aspect. So you're gone. You've already started your series on Instagram at this point. You're liberating, or you're talking about liberating Black women from their toxic jobs. So how did that become like the thing? You know what I'm saying? How did that become the thing?
Yeah, so initially, like I said, I thought it was going to be like a 2-week series. I thought it was going to do a series on workplace bullying, and that was it. But then as more Black women started reaching out to me, and then I was like, you know, I like talking about this. You know what I mean? Like, I like being able to get out my system. I like it. And people were coming up with different topics. And I started interviewing people. And I was like, this is absolutely fascinating. And then from there, I said, okay, well, I'm a therapist. But as a therapist, I can only help so many people. Okay? Most of my clients are Black women. I can only help so many people. And they have to be in California. So I said, how can I help more Black women in the work that I do, learning from my own experience as a toxic job survivor and as a licensed clinical psychologist? How can I help more Black women? And so from there, I said, what can I do? And so then the first thing I did basically was to collaborate with other Black women to help liberate. So I collaborated with the anti-HR lady about how to get out and how to get your coins. I also collaborated with the Black woman financial psychologist that I told you about. Her name is Dr. Roche Brown. So we do financial master classes, and that helps Black women in terms of the mindset to get yourself ready to go, but also the financial exit plan. Because again, when you think about leaving a job, most of us are like, wait a minute, I need to replace my income and my benefits. What are we going to do about that? So the financial masterclass walks Black women through the process of creating a financial timeline and what to do about your insurance and your benefits. And your retirement.
Right. That's, I mean, so key. I think it's definitely a shift. It's really hard when you're used to collecting a paycheck and then you go to, I'm responsible for everything all by myself, for me. And I know what you talk about a lot is getting Black women to exit, helping them get their exit plan. But what do you say to women, Black women, because, you know, we're all not made to be entrepreneurs, right? To be solo. So how do you work with Black women who don't want to leave their jobs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, and let me just distinguish too. So when I talk about exit planning, some Black women go into entrepreneurship, but the vast majority go into another job.
Another position. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I talk about exit planning, I always say, you know, I would not want anybody to just up and leave a job without having something in place, right?
Yeah.
So the importance of planning. And, you know, some of us want to go into entrepreneurship, but it's challenges along with that too.
Oh, yeah.
So like I said, the vast majority of people go into another job. And so that's how the Job Liberation Virtual Summit came about, was because my business partner, Marissa Price, and I, we were like, how do we help more Black women really create an exit plan based upon if they want to go into another job or if they want to go into entrepreneurship? And so then 3 years ago, you know, we started the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, which helps Black women, but they learn from like multiple Black women, different Black women speakers about all these different elements in relation if you want to go to another job or if you want to go into entrepreneurship.
Right. Yeah. You know, I'm one of those people that's not made to work for people. I mean, you always are working for somebody, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, so the whole entrepreneurial thing really, and that's why, you know, I keep going with that. But, you know, there's very much people who would just like to have a job, you know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
It's all about, just finding the right fit.
Absolutely. Like you don't want to be in another toxic job.
No, exactly. So for people who are watching, since you are the toxic job liberator, maybe I think, because sometimes people might downplay, I think a lot of us downplay what we go through on these jobs. We downplay what we're feeling on these jobs. We kind of just, we grit our teeth and we go through it. You said the Sunday scaries. We talked about that before on the podcast. So can you give us a few signs that you are definitely in a toxic job? I mean, maybe some of the ones that might be less apparent. Obviously you might have some toxic coworkers or some stuff, but maybe some that we wouldn't necessarily think about so quickly.
Okay. It could be dreading waking up to go to work. So the alarm clock goes off and you just sit there and dread the thought of like getting up out of your bed. You have to talk yourself out the bed. Once you actually get up, it's like you're trying to prepare yourself, but you're like overcompensating in some ways. Maybe you're like wearing like some super special clothing all the time or nice shoes because you're trying to mask how miserable you are. Maybe when you're driving to work, you're crying on the way to work. And so when you get to work, you look in the mirror, you're trying to fix your face to put the mask on. Like, okay, I got this. Everything's going to be okay. You pep talk yourself to get out the car. Like, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You walk through the door and you're like, oh, I hate this place. I hate this place. This place is soul sucking. I can't stand it. So you have on this mask all day where you have people who are often questioning and doubting you all day. Even though we know as Black women, we have to be overly qualified to get these jobs in the first place. So I have an issue with imposter syndrome with Black women because I think it's a little different for us. I think it's less of an internal doubting. I think it's maybe a combination of the external internal. I think that when we come in, we're often qualified. We know we're qualified. We know we're confident. But then because people are projecting their doubts onto us, we might start internalizing those doubts. So now you're dealing with that. You are tone policing yourself all day. You are checking, rechecking your emails to make sure it sounded okay. You are going through the bathroom throughout the day to cry. If somebody says some stupid comment or you're just so frustrated, you want to scream, you just get so frustrated, you go in the bathroom and you cry, and then you come out and you put some water on your face and you try to put your face back together, put the mask back together. And then by the end of your workday, you are exhausted. You are exhausted because you're doing your job at a high level, and then you're dealing with all the other microaggressions and nonsense and pretending like these things are not harming you, and they really are. And so you're holding all this tension and stress all day. So then you leave, and on your way, maybe going home, you're calling a friend, a family member, and you're venting. Okay? So now your family and your friends, they all know about everybody at your job. They know the names, they know everybody, they know who did what, whatever, right? So they're hearing about it, and they're feeling sad for you. They're feeling helpless and hopeless because they don't know how to help you. And then let's say you go home, and let's say you have a family at home. Now you are so exhausted from that job, you're a shell of yourself once you get home. So you're not fully present for your family. So either and you are talking about your job at home, right?
Right.
Or you're just not fully present for your loved ones once you get home. And then it's kind of like you're just going through the motions. You're going through the motions. And you're just saying to yourself, oh, I'll just be glad for the weekend. Or, oh, I'll be glad for vacation. But you're never able to recoup because this stuff keeps happening over and over and over again. And you start saying to yourself, like, did I work this hard to get to this? Like, this can't be. You see other people getting promotions, you see other people getting accolades, and they don't have near the experience that you do, and you just keep swallowing these indignities. I remember one Black woman said to me, she said, I feel like I bite my tongue so much at this job. One day I'm going to just bite it straight off. I'm not going to even have a tongue anymore. So thinking about what is that life like in terms of that self-silencing, which can be an issue too, where you are swallowing all these things that you're experiencing, and that can actually turn into a form of self-loathing. Like, I can't believe that I let those people talk to me like that. I can't believe I let those people, do whatever. And start looking at yourself in a negative way. And then that can turn inward in terms of feelings of depression. So in terms of mental health symptoms that we might see because of all these external things might be depression, anxiety. You might experience trauma symptoms if there are things about your job that have like a parallel dynamic to other traumatic experiences in your life. It might bring out PTSD symptoms. It might result in sleeping difficulties, overeating. My hair started falling out. You know what I'm saying? My blood pressure started going up. I gained a lot of weight. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that might happen. And it doesn't just impact us physically. It impacts us mentally, maybe spiritually. And it doesn't just impact us. It impacts the people we care about too.
It's so interesting. A lot of the things that you mentioned, especially for us once we get to a particular age, we might just, brush off and say, oh, that's the perimenopause. That's the menopause talking. I mean, a lot of those symptoms. So I'm asking this because, I would probably attribute it to a lot of things, instead of like, is my job really the problem? I mean, we know we don't like our jobs and stuff like that. So how do you distinguish that, especially when, it could be any multitude of things, Well, how do you distinguish that? I mean, what do you recommend?
I recommend therapy, right? Because there's so many things that we as Black women have to deal with on a daily basis, which research is also showing that now we're dying at earlier ages because of all of this stress. So if we think about, you're dealing with all this stuff, but you need to pay attention to how you're feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like if your shoulders are tight all the time, you're having difficulty sleeping, you have to pay attention to the symptoms of what's happening and go to therapy and be honest with your therapist. I would recommend a Black woman therapist. And be open with what your experience is, and the therapist is able to work with you to identify what is the source of why you feel the way you feel.
Tell us, in your opinion, because I am very much about a Black woman therapist for myself, and that's all I've ever had. But, I have another Black female friend who was very much like, well, why do you need to have a Black woman therapist? And I was like, because that's what I want. She's like, well, you must not really need one then, because if you needed one, you would go to whomever. And I'm just like, okay, so explain, because I mean, I know why I feel more comfortable, but
Yeah. Generally with a Black woman therapist, you feel a sense of shared identity. Even though as Black people, we're not the same people. Black women, we're not the same people. But there's some shared experiences that we have. So if I say certain things to you, if I look at you a certain way, if I say certain things a certain way, you understand what I'm talking about. So It's not that you're there educating your therapist about, oh, well, it was because of this. And so a lot of times what I hear from other Black women, particularly my Black women therapy clients who've had other therapists who were not Black, is that they felt like they were educating the therapist. They felt like the therapist was gaslighting them in some ways, blaming them for the problem. Well, can you see it a different way? Or maybe they were just trying to like minimizing the symptoms. Yeah. So there's a shared lived in experience. And because of that, that also helps with the development of trust in the relationship, because therapy is very intimate and you need to trust that person. So if you feel like that person doesn't quite understand your lived in experience and you have to teach them, then that's going to impact your degree to which you can trust and open up to that person, and even the degree to which that person can really understand what you're going through and really give you constructive feedback about maybe some things you can consider or try, because they have no idea. They've never been in that situation. So they have no idea about how to really support you in that process.
Right. And for those of you, or for those out there who are listening, on the best way to find a Black therapist, can you share?
Yes. I actually do have a video on my YouTube channel, Lifting As We Climb Consulting,
I'll put
about
it in
how
the
to find.
description.
Okay, about how to find a Black therapist.
Okay.
So you can, several things. So if you have health insurance, you can go to your health insurance provider, and some of them do have it listed or organized in terms of, you can ask them, I'm looking for a Black woman therapist. So hopefully that would be an option, okay?
Yeah.
If that's not, then you can go to like online directories like Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls, Black Female Therapists. There are a lot of online directories, and you can look through the online directories based upon your state, because you need to make sure that whoever you're working with is licensed to practice in your state, okay? You want to make sure you're working with a licensed mental health professional, not a coach. A coach can help you with like the present day, a game plan, right? But those deeper issues need to be in therapy with a licensed mental health professional. So the benefit of the online directory is that you'll see, okay, where they practice. You'll get a description about what type of areas of expertise they have, how they work as a therapist, what insurance that they accept, what is their fee, their schedule. So you'll learn a lot of different things. The other thing is that you can schedule a free 15-minute consultation call with the therapist. And that way you're able to ask direct questions, and you can kind of get a feel for, do I like this person, or do I kind of feel a certain kind of way about this person? Also, Psychology Today, on their online directory, they have videos where therapists can actually post videos. You can actually see the therapist talking in action to see like, how do I really feel about this therapist? So that's one way. Now, there were other resources that were available like 2020 or so, but a lot of those resources have kind of gone away in terms of accessing mental health services. So you can look to see if there's other mental health resources available in your community or free resources. But again, a lot of those have kind of dried up.
Yeah. I remember, didn't Taraji P. Henson have something?
Yeah. So Taraji, during the pandemic, because I was on her list of therapists.
Right.
She had you get 5 free therapy sessions. And that happened for a number of years, but that's no longer available. There was also the Loveland Foundation, and they provided free therapy vouchers for Black women. But I've been told that they're not accepting, referrals for people now either. So the resources are less, but there are resources available, right? So also I want to say this. So let's say you find a therapist in your area and you really want to work with them, but maybe they don't accept your insurance. You can contact your insurance provider and ask them, I found a therapist I really want to work with. They're out of network. Would you pay for me to see this therapist who's out of network? And then if so, how much would you pay towards the service? Okay. Or they might say, well, we won't pay the provider, but we'll reimburse you. And so if they say that, then you can ask, okay, so that means you'll accept a super bill. So the therapist would give you a super bill. So you would pay out of pocket, the therapist would give you a super bill, and then you would turn that super bill into your insurance carrier for reimbursement. You just need to find out what is the reimbursement process and at what rate are they going to reimburse you at.
Wow. And have you seen that happen a lot?
Oh, yeah, I did that with some of my clients.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's really, really good information.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really good information, because I was having issues with my insurance provider and my therapist. Mm-hmm. We ultimately got it worked out, but I didn't know about that. So that's really good information.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and if you have the FSA, sometimes you can use that for your therapy as well.
Oh yeah. So, Dr. Kimani, you've been talking about the summit for Black women that you and Marissa are putting on, and this is the 3rd year. So, tell everybody about the summit and just give them the information. Sounds like a great opportunity for Black women to come together and strategize how to get forward and out of their toxic job situations. So.
Yes, absolutely. So the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, like you said, this is the third annual one. So it's May 1st through the 3rd, and it's all virtual. So we are teaching Black women about creating an exit plan. So an exit plan for replacing their income and their benefits, so insurance to retirement. So this is for if you want to pivot into another job or if you want to go into entrepreneurship. So you'll be learning from more than 20 Black women speakers who are dynamic, and learning and actually creating an exit plan so that even if you may not want to leave your job right away, I think right now with this unstable job market, it's very important for us as Black women to have some plans available to us. Yeah. So by the time you leave the summit, you'll have your exit plan whenever you want to utilize it. The other thing is that you're in a community of other Black women. So we're all there to kind of support one another. As a privacy consideration, the speakers are the only people who will be on camera. So the people who come to the summit, the participants, will not be on camera. Names won't be listed just for privacy purposes. But you are learning from other Black women about actually creating an exit plan.
So I know, is the information already up? Is it live, or are people registering now?
Yes. So the waiting list, yes. And then it'll go live tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. On Harriet Tubman Day.
So, okay. So you said 3 days, there's 20 presentations or women. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you register to go and you're working, mm-hmm. is it recorded? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Okay, mm-hmm. Awesome. And do they have, I just am curious, how long will they have access to the recordings?
That's indefinitely? A good question. I can't speak on that right now. I can't remember right now. Okay. But they'll have it for an extended period of time. I don't know the exact amount of time.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds like packed full of a lot of good information. Mm-hmm. 3 days.
And each year we've had 300 Black women, so we hope to exceed 300 this year.
Yeah. It's a hot topic right now. It's a hot topic. I guess it's been a hot topic, but it's a hot topic. So yeah, I saw, I'm not sure who's on the list this year, but I saw who was on last year and definitely recognize a lot of the names and faces. So sounds like a good group of women who, sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's dynamic. And then after that, we have a WhatsApp community where Black women who are part of the summit can be a part of the WhatsApp community. So you have community as well to support one another, share resources, and that community is very active.
Okay.
And it's no additional fee to be in the WhatsApp community.
Oh, wow. Okay. Cool. So that's very cool. Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Kimani, tell everybody where they can find you. You've given us some really good information, and you're in the state. Dr. Kimani's in the state of California. So
yes.
But tell everybody where they can find you, where they can watch you. I know where I see you, but tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn as well, but also I'm mostly on YouTube. So Lifting As We Climb Consulting, where I have interviews every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific time, where I'm interviewing a different Black woman about her experiences in a toxic job and how she was able to pivot out. Because I want Black women to see from not just me that you're able to leave a toxic job and do well. It might be going into another job that's not toxic, or going into entrepreneurship, but you have options. And so again, every Sunday, I'm on YouTube, Lifting As We Climb Consulting. And when I talk on these videos, I also share about different resources that I have available. So coming up now is the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, May 1st through 3rd. But throughout the year, I have different virtual events for Black women. When I typically offer virtual events, it's that privacy consideration as well, okay? So you won't be on camera, right? So you won't have concerns about people finding out that you're in this event or anything like that. So again, I'm providing these resources for Black women to know that we have options, because we do. And I want Black women, I've started doing like a gardening series, like gardening is healing, because I want Black women to see from me as a Black woman toxic job survivor, but also a mental health professional, that there's other ways that we can support healing in addition to therapy, gardening, moving our bodies. There's other things that we need to do, and we really need to do that right now, because this time is a very stressful time for us.
Very, very. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been great. You've had some great tips. I mean, the out-of-network therapist alone, I'm just like, okay, I didn't know about that. That's a good one. Shoot, I'm going to have to try that myself, actually. So, well, I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, that's a good one. I don't think a lot of people knew about that, actually. Yeah. So, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you again, Dr. Kimani, for coming on and sharing with us. Check her out, guys. All of her information is below. And we will see you on the next episode.